In transport of respiratory gases, now we will discuss the transport of oxygen. As a result of inspiration, oxygen reaches to alveoli. That means mixture of gases reach alveoli, but oxygen only can diffuse through the walls of alveoli. Since the partial pressure of oxygen is more than partial pressure of carbon dioxide. Both oxygen and carbon dioxide will show good affinity towards hemoglobin. In spite, oxygen could able to diffuse into the blood because partial pressure of oxygen is more. Not only this factor, at alveoli, temperature is less, and as the oxygen partial pressure is more here you will see the pH value will be more. That means it is in alkaline or basic in its chemical nature at alveoli. pH value is more, temperature is less, partial pressure of carbon dioxide is less, partial pressure of oxygen is more. These are the factors helping the oxygen for easy diffuse into the blood. Soon after diffusion into the blood, oxygen get bind with hemoglobin. Hemoglobin is a respiratory pigment present in RBCs. When we see the structure of RBC, hemoglobin is present. It is with 4 polypeptide chains, 2 alpha chains and 2 beta chains. These 4 chains can carry only 4 molecules of oxygen. Each hemoglobin molecule can carry 4 molecules of oxygen. In such a way, oxygen get binds with hemoglobin. You can see the formation of oxyhemoglobin. 4 molecules of oxygen binds with hemoglobin. We can see the formation of oxyhemoglobin. This is a reversible compound. This can sustain in these conditions only. Temperature must be less. The pH value must be more. There should not be acidic condition. Partial pressure of CO2 must be less. Partial pressure of O2 will be more. Already we have seen the partial pressures at alveoli. The partial pressure of oxygen is 104, whereas the partial pressure of CO2 is only 40. So as the partial pressure of oxygen is more, that can get diffused into the blood. Because of these factors, you will see the weak compound, reversible compound can be formed. When these conditions not exist, if conditions reverse, ultimately you will see the dissociation of oxyhemoglobin. So as far as the transport of oxygen concerned, when the oxygen get diffused through the alveoli into the blood, the total oxygen, when we see 3% of the oxygen dissolve in plasma and transport, only 3% of the oxygen dissolved in plasma and it will transport, and 97% of hemoglobin will take the oxygen in the form of oxyhemoglobin. This was explained by a scientist, Bohr, by giving us oxygen hemoglobin dissociation curve. By taking a graph, partial pressure of oxygen on x-axis and percentage of saturation of hemoglobin on y-axis. When partial pressure of oxygen increasing, obviously saturation of the hemoglobin also increase. This is explained as oxygen hemoglobin dissociation curve. The oxygen hemoglobin dissociation curve is nothing but the relation between partial pressure of oxygen and percentage of the saturation of hemoglobin. On x-axis, he has taken the partial pressure of oxygen. When partial pressure of oxygen is going on increasing, the saturation percentage of hemoglobin increase. In this graph we can get a sigmoid graph. When partial pressure of oxygen decreasing, obviously percentage of the saturation of hemoglobin decreases. In such cases, the y-axis, when we observe, the graph curve will move away from the y-axis. Ultimately, it will come fall. Means it is moving towards the right side of the y-axis. Partial pressure is increasing, you will get a sigmoid graph. When partial pressure of oxygen decreasing, the graph curve will move away from the y-axis. Partial pressure of oxygen decreasing, that means you can say the concentration of carbon dioxide or partial pressure of carbon dioxide is increasing. Apart from that, when there is a carbon dioxide, obviously you can see there H plus ions also increase. When H plus ions increase, there you will see the alkalinity decreases, it comes to acidic nature. So when acidic nature is increasing, that means H plus ions increased, that is also because of partial pressure of carbon dioxide. It means that partial pressure of oxygen is decreasing, that means increase of partial pressure of carbon dioxide and increase the H plus ions. This was explained by Bohr, hence we call that as a Bohr effect. The effect of CO2 and H plus ions on the affinity of the oxygen to hemoglobin is called Bohr effect. So as far as transport of oxygen concerned, soon after entering into the body at alveolar level, the diffusion of oxygen occur into the blood. Whatever the amount of oxygen that reaches to the blood, of which 3% is simply transported through plasma in dissolved condition, 97% of oxygen is being transported in the form of oxyhemoglobin, for which there are some factors favoring, that is partial pressure of oxygen is more, partial pressure of CO2 is less, H plus ions are less, hence the pH value increases and temperature decreases. Because of these factors, oxygen bind with hemoglobin. Every hemoglobin molecule can carry 4 molecules of oxygen. This oxyhemoglobin compound is a reversible compound. It will sustain unless these conditions occur. If the conditions reverse, it will get dissociate. This transportation of oxygen was explained by Bohr by giving a graphical explanation by showing sigmoid graph in the name of oxygen hemoglobin dissociation curve. It is nothing but the relation between partial pressure of oxygen and the percentage of hemoglobin saturation. When partial pressure of oxygen increasing, saturation of hemoglobin increasing, means carrying capacity of oxygen is increasing. There we can see the sigmoid graph. When partial pressure of oxygen decreasing, obviously the curve moves away from the y-axis towards the right side. Partial pressure of oxygen decreasing, that means here the CO2 influence and H plus ions influence is more. That is nothing but the effect of CO2 and H plus ions always affect the affinity of O2. This is regarding the transport of oxygen in the form of oxyhemoglobin to tissues. Soon from alveolus, the oxygen is being transferred in the form of oxyhemoglobin. Already we discussed at tissues, this oxyhemoglobin will dissociate and oxygen releases. Why dissociation is occurring at tissues? Already we discussed. In tissues, cell oxidation takes place. As a result of cell oxidation, apart from energy, CO2 releases, heat generates, and so many electrolytes, especially H plus ions release, nitrogenous waste materials will release. All these substances create their acidic nature. Obviously, pH value decreases. Acidic condition exists at tissues. temperature is generated and CO2 also released. There at tissues, CO2 partial pressure is more than the partial pressure of oxygen. Here, at tissues, CO2 partial pressure is 45, whereas the oxygen partial pressure is only 40. Because of these factors, means whatever the factors existing at alveoli are exactly opposite at tissues. That's why oxyhemoglobin dissociates, oxygen liberate from the hemoglobin and get diffused into the cell. This is regarding the transport of oxygen. Now let us discuss in detail the transport of carbon dioxide. Transport of CO2. In tissues or cells, cell oxidation takes place. As a result, CO2 will diffuse out into the blood, and such CO2 enters into the RBC and that dissolves in plasma. CO2, plasma is with 90% of water, and you will see the formation of carbonic acid. Carbonic acid is formed. It is a weak physical solution, you know very well. Here in RBC, we can see an important enzyme, that is carbonic anhydrase. Carbonic anhydrase is an enzyme present in RBC that take role in transportation of carbon dioxide. It is abundantly available in RBC and less quantities in plasma. Under the influence of this carbonic anhydrase, whatever the chemical reactions occur in respect with the transport of carbon dioxide. When we see the CO2 released from cell that enter into the RBC, that dissolve in the plasma, rather to say water, it turns into carbonic acid. Immediately the carbonic acid will get dissociate into H plus ions and bicarbonates. H plus and bicarbonates. At tissues, the cell membrane of RBC is permeable for anions but not for cations. Because of this reason, whatever the bicarbonates formed in the RBC, they get diffused out into the plasma. At tissues, the cell membrane RBC is permeable to anions. As a result, bicarbonates get diffused out into the plasma. The H plus ions bind with hemoglobin by becoming buffer. Acidic hemoglobin can be seen here. H plus ions, whatever present in RBC, buffered by hemoglobin and becomes acidic hemoglobin. So inside, cation is present, anion released into the plasma. There is an electrolyte imbalance in RBC as well as in plasma. In order to balance the electrolytes, here in plasma we can see sodium bicarbonate. The sodium bicarbonate dissociates. Sodium chloride dissociates. Whatever the chloride dissociated from sodium chloride, this chloride immediately that enters into the RBC. And the sodium binds with bicarbonate, then we can see the formation of sodium bicarbonate. Sodium chloride, whatever present in the plasma, get dissociates into sodium and chloride. The chloride ions will get diffused into the plasma in order to make electrolyte balance. Whatever the sodium left that binds with the bicarbonate, we can see the formation of sodium bicarbonate. In such a way, electrolyte balance takes place, and by this time the blood, the CO2 and bicarbonates along with sodium, they will be transported to the alveoli. By the time it reaches to the alveoli, here conditions, pH is more, temperature is less, partial pressure of oxygen is more, partial pressure of CO2 is less. Due to these factors, what happens? The cell membrane permeability now comes for both anion and cation. As a result, from RBC, H plus ions liberate into the plasma, chloride ions will come back into the plasma. Such liberation of chloride ions from RBC2 again into plasma, we call that as chloride shift. When the H plus ion and chlorides, they release into the plasma, here in such parameters, sodium bicarbonate will dissociate and sodium will bind again with chlorine. You will see the formation of chloride, sodium chloride, and H plus ions bind with bicarbonates, and you can see the formation of carbonic acid. This carbonic acid cannot sustain in these conditions. That's why this will dissociate into water plus CO2 at the level of alveoli. As a result, you will see the formation of CO2 that will diffuse out through alveoli. In such a way, the chlorine is playing vital role in transport of carbon dioxide in the form of bicarbonates. Approximately, you will see 70% of carbon dioxide transported in the form of bicarbonates. About 7% of carbon dioxide will be transported by dissolving in the plasma in carbonic solution, and about 20-25% of carbon dioxide will transport in the form of carbamino compounds. 20-25% carbamino compounds, 7% in physical solution, carbonic acid, about 70% it will be transported in the form of bicarbonates. In such transportation, chloride is playing vital role. It is shifting from plasma to RBC and again coming back to RBC to plasma. Hence, we call this phenomenon as chloride shift. This phenomenon was explained by Hamburger. Hence, we call this as Hamburger effect or Hamburger phenomenon. After transport of respiratory gases, now we will discuss the regulation of respiration. Respiratory movements or respiratory rhythms should be under control. Such regulation is being taken by some regulatory centers located in brain. Let us see the different regulatory centers whatever we come across in human body. First one is respiratory rhythm center. Respiratory rhythm center is present in medulla, which always responsible for regulation of respiration. The inspiration and expiration or inhalation and exhalation are always under the control, regulated, because per minute human being generally respires minimum of 12 times, maximum of 16 times. In order to maintain this range of respiratory rhythms, the respiratory rhythm center always regulating, which is located in medulla. The second one is pneumotaxic center. Pneumotaxic center is present on pons varolii in brain. This always moderates the functions of respiratory rhythm according to the requirement. Some deep breathings, deep inspiration, deep expiration depending upon the requirement. Such moderate functions are regulating by the pneumotaxic center, which is located on the pons varolii. The third one is chemosensitive area. Chemosensitive area is also present on medulla oblongata, just adjacent to the respiratory rhythm center. Respiratory rhythm center present on medulla, there itself adjacent to this we can see chemosensitive area. This chemosensitive area is much sensitive to recognize CO2 and hydrogen ions when their concentration increases. When concentrations of CO2 and H plus ions increase in the body, it sends signals to the respiratory rhythm center to act accordingly to decrease the concentrations. In such a way, chemosensitive area is also regulating the respiratory rhythms. not directly by sending some signals to the respiratory rhythm center when concentrations of CO2 and H plus ions increase. In the same way, even we can see some receptors, they also recognize the concentrations of carbon dioxide and H plus ions. Such receptors are present on or closely associated with aortic arch and also carotid artery. Carotid artery and aortic arch are provided with some receptors. They can recognize the fluctuations or the concentration changes of CO2 and H plus ions in the body. Accordingly, they send signals to the respiratory rhythm center to take proper action to maintain the proper respiration in the body. In the same way, we can see the respiratory rhythm center, pneumotoxic center, chemosensitive area, and receptors associated with aortic arch and carotid arch are regulating the total respiration process. Finally, when we come to the disorders pertaining to respiratory system, these are the disorders generally prevail among the population in respect with the respiratory system. Asthma, it is a disease, breathing become very difficult, and wheezing in the respiratory tract, and also inflammation occur, mucus releases, and the respiratory gases not easily dissolve and diffuse into the blood. Breathing difficulty we observe in case of asthma. Wheezing and inflammation, blocking of bronchi and bronchioles takes place. Pneumonia is an infective disease by virus, bacteria, protozoan parasites, helminth parasites. Pneumonia is a dangerous disease. Generally, we observe this kind of disorder in children and in old age that may lead to even death. Difficulty in breathing and blocking of the respiratory tract and mucus releases from the respiratory tract. Emphysema. Emphysema is a kind of disorder generally we observe in smoking persons. Those who smoke, and there you will see the damage of the walls of the alveoli. The alveoli walls are totally damaged and they become fibrous, diffusion capacity decreases. And bronchitis. Bronchitis is also a kind of disorder developed in bronchi and bronchioles where mucus releases, breathing difficulty, cough and phlegm releases from respiratory tract. Finally, when we see occupational respiratory disorders, the people who work in different industries where the pollutant particles release, when they inhale, they come across with different respiratory disorders. That is because of their occupation, we call them as occupational disorders. The people who work in quarries, their sand particles, silicon particles release. In coal mines, they work, automatically carbon particles will be inhaled. Black lung disease we can see. Asbestos functions. Asbestos industries where the asbestos particles release, they damage lungs. In such a way, there are so many industries, they release so many toxic particles into the air. If they inhale, the respiratory disorders will develop. This is regarding the breathing and exchange of respiratory gases.